Enough of your excuses, Maya.
Are you serious right now?
Mrs.
Get
Walker's
out, now!
voice cracked like thunder across the classroom.
Did you see that?
Get out of my class, now. The room went silent. Maya's hands clenched around the edge of her desk, her fingers trembling. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Did you hear me? Mrs. Walker's voice was sharp and unforgiving. I didn't do anything wrong, Maya finally managed to say, her voice steady but low. I didn't throw the paper. Cut the crap, Mrs. Walker snapped, pointing at her. I've had enough of you disrespecting me and the class. You think I won't call the cops on you? Watch me. Maya's heart pounded. She could feel the eyes of her classmates burning into her. She knew she hadn't thrown the paper, but no one would believe her, not when the accusation came from Mrs. Walker. You think I'm lying? Maya shot back, her voice rising. Is that what you think of me? You've been watching me like I'm some kind of troublemaker for months now, and I'm sick of it. Don't talk back to me, girl. I'm done with you. Mrs. Walker whipped out her phone, her fingers tapping furiously on the screen. I'll have the cops here in 5 minutes. Let's see how much you like that. Maya stood tall, every muscle in her body tense, but she held her ground. Go ahead. Call them. But I'll be here, and you'll have to answer for it. The classroom fell even quieter. Students exchanged nervous glances, some already pulling out their phones to record. I'm waiting. Mrs. Walker's voice was biting, her eyes narrowing as she stared down Maya. Call them, Maya said, her voice unwavering. But remember this, Mrs. Walker. You're the one who'll be embarrassed when the truth comes out. The door to the classroom swung open with a bang, and Principal Harris stepped in, his gaze flicking from Maya to Mrs. Walker. Maya, what's going on here? He asked, his tone firm but calm. Principal Harris, I've had enough of this disrespect, Mrs. Walker said, her voice tight. She's lying, Maya interrupted, her words cutting through the tension. I didn't throw anything. And now she's calling the cops on me for no reason. Principal Harris raised an eyebrow. Mrs. Walker, what's this about? She's been nothing but trouble in my class, and this is the final straw, Mrs. Walker said, her voice rising in frustration. I'm calling the cops. I'm done dealing with her. Well, Principal Harris said, his voice smooth but commanding, it seems we have a bigger issue here than a paper airplane. Let's take a step back, Mrs. Walker. You don't need to take a step back, Principal, Maya said, standing her ground. She needs to take responsibility. Mrs. Walker's face turned red, her fists clenched. You think you can talk to me like that? I'm your teacher, and you will show me respect. I'm showing you the same respect you've shown me, Maya said, her words dripping with defiance. None. Principal Harris took a long look at both of them before speaking. Enough. Mrs. Walker, you'll come with me to my office. Maya, stay here. We'll sort this out. I'll be here, waiting for you to admit your mistake, Maya shot back, her words hitting harder than ever. The door slammed behind them, and the classroom was left in stunned silence. You think you can just walk away from this, Maya? Mrs. Walker's voice echoed in the hallway as she stormed toward Maya, Principal Harris behind her, face set in stone. I'm not letting this go. I never asked you to, Maya said, her tone cold as she stood in front of the principal's office. But you can't just treat me like this. I've had enough of your attitude, Mrs. Walker snapped. You don't get to talk to me like that. You're nothing but a troublemaker, and now you're making this worse. Maya stood her ground, unfazed. No, I'm standing up for myself. Something you've never bothered to do. Not for me, not for anyone. You're out of line, Mrs. Walker barked, her finger jabbing toward Maya's chest. I will not have you disrespecting me or this school. You don't get to decide what's disrespectful when you're the one who's wrong, Maya fired back, her voice steady, but each word full of fury. You called the cops on me for nothing. Maya, I think we need to calm down, Principal Harris said, trying to mediate, but his voice was drowned out by the intensity of the moment. I'm calm, Maya said, turning to him, but she's not. And she doesn't care about being fair. You think I don't care about fairness? Mrs. Walker scoffed. This is about respect. You don't understand that, do you? Maya took a step closer, not intimidated in the slightest. Respect is earned, Mrs. Walker. You haven't earned it from me or anyone else, not with how you treat us. I'm the one who decides who earns respect in this school. Mrs. Walker's voice cracked with frustration. Not you. Not your friends. Not anyone. Maya's eyes flashed with defiance. So you think you can get away with anything? With no consequences? No one's going to believe you over me, Mrs. Walker hissed, stepping right into Maya's space, her face twisted with anger. I've been here for years. You've been here for months. You're just a kid, Maya. You don't get to tell me what's right and wrong. Then why don't we let people decide? Maya shot back, her voice ringing with the promise of something bigger. Maybe you're not the authority you think you are. Are you threatening me? Mrs. Walker snarled. I'm not threatening you, Maya said, voice firm, every word deliberate. I'm saying it's time someone held you accountable. Principal Harris stepped forward, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. That's enough. Mrs. Walker, this conversation is over. We'll deal with this in my office. I won't sit quietly while she slanders me. Mrs. Walker's voice shook, but there was no mistaking the venom behind it. I'll make sure you're expelled, Maya. This is the last straw. You can try, Maya said, her eyes unblinking. But I'll be here, and you'll have to answer for it. Principal Harris raised his hand, signaling them to move inside. We're going to resolve this right now. Both of you, in my office. Now. The tension between them was palpable as they all walked into the principal's office. Mrs. Walker shot Maya one last venomous look, but Maya didn't flinch. She knew this was far from over, but it was just the beginning of something far bigger than either of them had anticipated. Do you have anything to say for yourself, Maya? Mrs. Walker's voice cut through the silence of the principal's office. Her tone was cold, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or uncertainty. I've said everything I need to say, Maya replied, her voice steady, unwavering. She crossed her arms, her posture strong and composed despite the tension in the room. You think this is a joke? Mrs. Walker's hand slammed down on the desk. I've been a teacher here for years, and you think you can just walk in and disrespect me like this? I didn't disrespect you. You disrespected me, Maya shot back. You called the cops on me for no reason. What did you expect? Principal Harris glanced at both of them, his eyes moving from Maya's calm demeanor to Mrs. Walker's angry outbursts. Enough, both of you. We're not going to get anywhere if we keep going in circles. You're not getting it, Mrs. Walker said, her voice shaking with a mixture of frustration and rising anger. You don't know what it's like to be a teacher, to keep control in a classroom. You think I'm just picking on you? No, you're not just picking on me, Maya said, her voice sharp. You're picking on anyone who doesn't fit your idea of what a student should be. I'm not the problem here. You are." Mrs. Walker froze for a second, her face flushing with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," Maya said, standing tall. "You've been treating me and everyone like I don't matter. You think we're all beneath you, but I'm not going to let you keep doing that." The words hung in the air, thick with the weight of everything that had happened. Mrs. Walker's lips parted, but no words came out. She just stared at Maya as if she couldn't process what was happening. "You think you're the only one in this school who gets to decide who's worth something?" Maya continued, her voice rising now, not out of anger, but out of sheer conviction. "No, Mrs. Walker, that's not how it works. And you'll see that soon." Principal Harris's eyes narrowed, the tension palpable between the two women. "What exactly do you mean by that, Maya?" Maya locked eyes with him, her voice unwavering. "I mean it's time someone stood up to people like Mrs. Walker, people who use their power to belittle and harm others." Mrs. Walker's face twisted, her nostrils flaring. "You think I'm a villain in this story?" "No," Maya said, "but you're a part of it. You're part of the problem, and you don't even realize it." "Enough, both of you," Principal Harris said, his voice firm, but even he couldn't hide the hint of frustration creeping in. "We're not going to resolve anything by shouting at each other." "I'm not shouting," Maya said, her voice controlled but filled with force. "I'm speaking the truth." Mrs. Walker slammed her fist on the desk again. "I've had enough of this attitude. You think you're going to walk away from this unscathed? I'll make sure you regret this, Maya. You won't get away with it." Maya didn't flinch. "You don't scare me." "You should be scared," Mrs. Walker sneered. "You'll see what happens when you disrespect me. You'll be the one to pay for it." "Maybe it's you who needs to pay for your actions," Maya replied, her voice calm but biting. "Maybe it's time you're held accountable for the way you treat people." "You'll regret this, Maya," Mrs. Walker said, her voice cold as ice. "You'll regret challenging me." "I won't regret standing up for what's right," Maya shot back. "And I won't regret fighting for the respect I deserve." The room was silent for a moment, the weight of Maya's words settling over them all. Mrs. Walker stood there, seething, unable to respond, while Principal Harris just stared at the two women. He looked between them, clearly torn. But it was Maya who had the final word. "I'm not the one who needs to regret anything," she said, her voice steady and strong. "I'm not the one who's in the wrong." Principal Harris stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Enough, Mrs. Walker, Maya. We will resolve this issue, privately. But the way this is going, we'll have to take further action." "Fine," Mrs. Walker muttered, her eyes flashing with anger. "But mark my words, Maya, this isn't over." "It's already over," Maya replied, her voice steady. "You just don't know it yet." With that, Maya turned and walked out of the principal's office, leaving Mrs. Walker standing there, seething with frustration. "You think this is over, Maya?" Mrs. Walker's voice came from behind her as she walked down the hall, still carrying the weight of the confrontation in the principal's office. The challenge in her voice was unmistakable. "You think you can just walk away from this?" Maya stopped in her tracks but didn't turn around. "I didn't walk away. I'm still here." "Oh, you're here all right," Mrs. Walker sneered, her footsteps growing louder as she approached. "And you're going to regret every second of it." Maya turned slowly, her eyes locking with Mrs. Walker's, filled with defiance. "You keep threatening me, but you don't get it. I'm not scared of you. Regret, Maya, Mrs. Walker hissed, stepping closer. You'll wish you had never crossed me. You don't know what I'm capable of. Maybe you should start learning what I'm capable of, Maya replied, her voice cutting through the tension. I'm done being the victim in your story. Victim? Mrs. Walker scoffed. You're a troublemaker. And I've had enough. You think you can ruin my reputation? You think you're going to walk out of here with no consequences? Maybe I won't have to worry about your reputation when everyone starts to see the truth, Maya shot back. What, you think you're untouchable? You're not. The words stung, and for the first time Mrs. Walker seemed to hesitate, her jaw clenching, eyes narrowing. You don't know who you're messing with, Maya. I know exactly who I'm messing with, Maya said, her voice steady. Someone who thinks they can use their power to destroy others. Someone who needs a reality check. Mrs. Walker stepped closer, her voice low and venomous. You think you're going to get away with this? You're a nobody, Maya, and I will make sure you regret every single moment. I'm not afraid of you, Maya said, every word dripping with conviction, and I'm not backing down. Suddenly the bell rang, signaling the end of the school day. Students flooded the hall, but neither Maya nor Mrs. Walker moved. The confrontation lingered in the air like a charged storm. I'm going to make sure you're expelled, Mrs. Walker snarled, taking a step forward, her eyes gleaming with malice. You'll never walk into another classroom again. Expelled for what? Maya asked, her voice cool and collected. For standing up to someone who's been abusing their power? For refusing to let you walk all over me? Don't pretend like you have a leg to stand on, Mrs. Walker said, her voice rising again. You're nothing. I'll make sure you leave this school with nothing. You'll try, Maya said, her eyes never leaving Mrs. Walker's. But you won't succeed. Don't you dare think for a second that I won't make your life a living hell, Mrs. Walker spat. I will ruin you. You already have, Mrs. Walker, Maya said, her words cutting through the air. But I'm still standing. You're so full of yourself, Mrs. Walker hissed, her face flushed with rage. This is far from over, Maya. You're going to regret this. We'll see about that, Maya replied, the fire in her voice impossible to ignore. But one thing's for sure, you're not in control anymore. Mrs. Walker's fists clenched, but she didn't make another move. She just stared at Maya, a look of fury and frustration written all over her face. Maya stood tall, unshaken. You've lost, Mrs. Walker, and you're too blinded by your own arrogance to see it. You'll see who wins in the end, Mrs. Walker spat, her words laced with venom. But as she turned and walked away, Maya felt a sense of power surge through her. It wasn't over yet. Principal Harris had been watching from a distance, and now he stepped forward, his presence imposing. Maya, we need to talk. Maya nodded and followed him into his office. Mrs. Walker was nowhere to be seen. The tension in the air had shifted, and Maya felt the weight of it on her shoulders. Sit down, Principal Harris said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. I'm not going to beat around the bush. What happened today has been a mess. I'm not backing down, Maya said, her voice unwavering. She started this, and now I'm finishing it. Principal Harris leaned back in his chair, studying Maya with a mix of concern and admiration. I know, but you've got to be careful. You're pushing her, and she's pushing back. It's only going to escalate. I can handle it, Maya said, her eyes steely with determination. I've had enough of her treating me like I'm invisible. like I don't matter. You matter, Principal Harris said, his voice softening. But you need to keep your focus. Don't let her get the better of you. I won't, Maya said, standing up, but I'm done being afraid. Well, Principal Harris said, his gaze firm. Let's see how this plays out. I'll be here to support you, but you have to be ready for whatever comes next. Maya nodded. She walked out of his office with her head held high. This battle wasn't over. It was only just beginning, and for the first time, she felt like she was on the winning side. You think you've won, don't you? Mrs. Walker's voice was low, dripping with disdain as she blocked Maya's path in the hallway. The hallway was practically empty, but the tension in the air made it feel like they were the only two people in the school. I don't think anything, Maya said, her voice calm but firm. I know I'm right. You have no idea what's coming for you, Mrs. Walker spat, taking a step closer, her eyes narrowing. I'm going to destroy you. I'll make sure you're out of here so fast you won't even know what hit you. Maya didn't flinch. You've been trying to destroy me from the start. But you don't have that power anymore. Mrs. Walker stepped closer, her face inches from Maya's, her breath hot with anger. You don't know who you're messing with. I'll make sure every teacher in this school knows what kind of person you are. I know exactly who I'm messing with, Maya replied, her voice steady. Someone who's been hiding behind their power for too long. Someone who thinks they can treat students like they don't matter. Students like you don't deserve respect, Mrs. Walker yelled. You're nothing but trouble, and I won't let you ruin everything I've built here. I'm not ruining anything, Maya said, her voice colder now. You're the one ruining this school, ruining students' lives with your arrogance and your lies. Mrs. Walker's face twisted in rage. You think you're so special, don't you? You think you're above everyone else? I'll have you expelled, and I'll make sure no other school will take you. Maya stood her ground, every muscle in her body poised, her voice unwavering. You can try, but you won't succeed. You're nothing without me, Mrs. Walker screamed. I'll make sure you never get another chance in this town. Your threats don't scare me, Maya said, her words cutting through the air like a blade. But it's clear now that you're the one who's afraid. You're afraid of losing control, afraid of being exposed for the person you really are. Mrs. Walker's eyes flashed with fury, and she shoved Maya. I've had enough of you. But Maya didn't back down. She took a step forward, eyes locked on Mrs. Walker's, every word carrying the weight of everything that had led up to this moment. No, Maya said firmly. I've had enough of you. Get out of my way, Mrs. Walker shouted, but Maya stood unmoving, her voice calm and cold. No, Maya repeated. I'm not moving. Not anymore. The hallway seemed to stretch, the tension between them thick enough to cut with a knife. Mrs. Walker's face was red with anger, her fists clenched, but Maya's calm, unwavering presence made her pause. I'm not afraid of you, Maya said, her voice steady, her gaze unblinking. And you're not in control anymore. For a moment it looked like Mrs. Walker was about to explode. But instead, she took a step back, her chest heaving with anger, her hands trembling. You don't know what you're messing with, Mrs. Walker spat, her voice dripping with venom. You think this is over. It's just beginning. No, Maya said, her voice strong. It's over for you. Not for me. The door to the principal's office opened behind them, and Principal Harris stepped out, his eyes scanning the hallway before landing on Maya and Mrs. Walker. What's going on here? Maya turned to him, her face calm. She's still trying to intimidate me, but it's not working. Principal Harris raised an eyebrow, his gaze moving from Maya to Mrs. Walker. Is this true, Mrs. Walker? She's a troublemaker, Mrs. Walker shouted. She's been a problem from the moment she stepped into this school. I've had enough of her disrespect. I haven't disrespected anyone, Maya said, turning to face Principal Harris. I've just been standing up for myself. You're standing up for yourself, Mrs. Walker sneered. You're out of control. I'm going to make sure you regret this. I don't regret anything, Maya said, her voice steady. And I won't back down. Principal Harris looked between them, his eyes narrowing. Mrs. Walker, I think we've heard enough. Maya, I need you to come with me. Maya gave a small nod, but before she could walk away, Mrs. Walker's voice rang out again. You'll regret this, Maya. You're nothing. You'll never amount to anything. Maya didn't flinch. She didn't respond. She just walked toward Principal Harris, who opened the door to his office and stepped inside with her. As the door closed behind them, Maya could still hear Mrs. Walker's words echoing in the hallway, but it didn't matter anymore. For the first time, Maya felt the power shift in her favor. I won't regret standing up for what's right, Maya said to herself, her voice low but filled with conviction. Principal Harris looked at her with a quiet respect. You did the right thing, Maya. I'm not done, Maya said, her voice firm. Not by a long shot. The air in the principal's office was thick with tension as Maya stood in front of Principal Harris's desk, waiting for him to speak. Her hands were steady at her sides, but inside her heart was racing. She had fought, and now it was time to see if her fight had made any difference. Maya, Principal Harris began, his voice calm but filled with a weight of authority. I've spoken with the school board about everything that's happened. They're taking this seriously. I don't want to just be taken seriously, Maya replied, her voice clear and firm. I want change. And you've got it, Principal Harris said, leaning forward. This isn't just about you anymore. It's about everyone who's ever been silenced, pushed down, or ignored. Maya raised an eyebrow. So, what happens now? Now, Principal Harris said, his gaze steady. Mrs. Walker is being put on leave while the investigation continues. You've made your case, and the board is looking into it. Maya felt a sense of triumph flood through her, but she didn't let it show. That's not enough. What do you mean? Principal Harris asked, his voice tinged with surprise. I don't want her on leave, Maya said, her voice hard. I want her gone. She doesn't deserve to teach anyone. That's a bold request, Principal Harris said, a trace of caution in his tone. But I can't make that decision alone. We need more than just one person's word. Then let the board hear everyone's voices, Maya said, her eyes narrowing. Let them hear the truth about Mrs. Walker. Let them hear what she's done, and let them make a choice based on that. You're asking for more than I can promise, Principal Harris replied, his expression tense. I'm asking for what's right, Maya shot back, and if you're serious about doing the right thing, you'll back me up. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the ticking of the clock on the wall. Principal Harris studied her, his eyes narrowing as if weighing her words. I will back you up, he said finally, his voice low and resolved. But you need to understand that this won't be easy. You've made yourself a target. I've been a target my whole life, Maya said, her voice unwavering. And I'm still standing. I admire your strength, Maya, Principal Harris said, his voice softening. But you need to be prepared for what comes next. Mrs. Walker has her supporters. I don't care about her supporters, Maya replied, her tone sharp. I care about what's right. And what's right is that she should be held accountable for what she's done. You're right, Principal Harris agreed, but I need you to understand that this fight isn't just about one person. It's about the bigger picture. It's about systemic change. I know, Maya said, her voice full of determination. But you can't change the system without changing the people who uphold it, and that starts with people like Mrs. Walker. Principal Harris sighed, his fingers tapping lightly on the desk. I'll make sure your voice is heard, Maya. I'll make sure the board knows the truth, but I need you to be patient. We can't rush this. I don't have patience for people like her, Maya said, her voice steady but her eyes hard. I won't wait for the system to change. I'm going to make it change. I'll do what I can, Principal Harris said, his expression softening. But I need you to be careful. This could get messy. I'm used to messy, Maya replied, her tone firm, but it's time for someone to clean it up. As Maya turned to leave, Principal Harris's voice stopped her. Maya, I want you to know that I respect what you're doing, and I'll support you in this fight. Maya looked back at him, her eyes cold but grateful. Thank you. She walked out of the office, her footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. For the first time, she felt like she was on the verge of something much bigger than herself. Something that could change everything, but she knew it wasn't over yet. She had won a battle, but the war was just beginning, and she would fight until the very end. As she walked through the halls, students whispered behind her back, but Maya didn't care. She had made her stand, and now it was time for everyone else to decide which side they were on. The next few days were a whirlwind. Maya walked into school each morning with her head held high, but the weight of what had happened still lingered in the air. Word had spread quickly, and now everyone knew what she'd done. In the hallways, the stares were harder to ignore. Some were curious, others judgmental, but most were silent, watching, waiting to see what would happen next. But Maya didn't flinch. She kept her eyes ahead, walking with purpose. Maya, a voice called from behind. She turned around to see her best friend, Jasmine, running toward her. You okay? Jasmine asked, her face filled with concern. You've been a target for days now. I'm fine, Maya said, her voice firm. Nothing's changed. I'm still standing. Jasmine raised an eyebrow. You sure about that? I heard Mrs. Walker's supporters are gathering, and they're planning something. Maya nodded. I know. But they can't take me down. Not anymore. Jasmine stepped closer, her tone softening. Are you sure you're ready for what's coming next? You've made a lot of enemies. Maya smiled, though there was no humor in it. I've always had enemies, Jasmine. But now I've got allies too, and that's what matters. Well, whatever happens, Jasmine said, I've got your back. Always. Maya's heart warmed, but she didn't let it show. Thanks, I need that right now. The bell rang, signaling the start of class, and they both headed toward their next period. But as Maya entered the classroom, she noticed a shift. There was a murmur among the students, and even her classmates seemed to be giving her a wide berth. She sat down, trying to ignore the whispers and stares. But she couldn't help noticing that her presence was no longer just a part of the background. She was the focal point now, the spark that had ignited something bigger than she had ever imagined. Just as she was settling in, Mrs. Walker's name came over the loudspeaker. Maya's heart skipped a beat. "Attention, students," the principal's voice echoed through the intercom. "We regret to inform you that Mrs. Walker has been placed on indefinite leave pending the results of an ongoing investigation. A substitute teacher will be taking over for the remainder of the semester." Maya's breath caught in her throat. This was it, the moment she had been waiting for. She felt a rush of triumph, but it was tempered by something else, a sense of finality, as though the battle was truly over. A few students exchanged glances, some with satisfied expressions, others with disbelief. Maya wasn't sure how she felt. She had won, but she hadn't done it alone. She hadn't even done it by playing fair. But in the end, it didn't matter. She had stood up for herself, for everyone who had ever been overlooked, and now the system was forced to face the truth. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Maya went through the motions of class, but her mind was elsewhere. She couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would change everything. It wasn't just about Mrs. Walker anymore. It was about the bigger picture, the systemic issues that had always been there, lurking in the background, ignored by those in power. The bell rang again, signaling the end of the school day. Maya gathered her things, ready to leave, but as she stood up, she was stopped by a familiar voice. "Maya," Principal Harris called, standing in the doorway of his office. Maya turned, her heart pounding. "Yes, sir." "I just wanted to say, I'm proud of you," Principal Harris said, his voice sincere. "What you did took courage, and I know it wasn't easy." "I didn't do it for praise," Maya said, her voice steady. "I did it because it was the right thing to do." "I know," Principal Harris replied, "but sometimes doing the right thing comes at a cost. You've paid that price." "I'll keep paying it," Maya said, her eyes hardening. "I'm not done." Principal Harris nodded, his expression filled with respect. "I hope you know that you have my full support. The school is behind you." "I appreciate that," Maya said, a small smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "But I've learned something. Sometimes the system won't change unless you force it." "You're right," Principal Harris agreed, stepping aside to let her pass. "And you're a reminder of why change is necessary." As Maya walked out of his office, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride wash over her. She had done what no one thought possible. She had fought back, and she had won. But it wasn't just about her victory. It was about every student who had ever felt powerless. It was about every voice that had been silenced for too long.
Outside the school, the afternoon sun bathed the campus in a golden light, but Maya didn't notice. She had bigger things on her mind. The road ahead would be difficult, but she was ready. Ready to fight for what was right, no matter the cost. As she stepped onto the bus, she felt a tap on her shoulder. It was Jasmine again, smiling. "You did it, didn't you?" Maya nodded, her eyes shining with quiet determination. "This isn't over. But it's a start." The bus doors closed, and as the wheels started turning, Maya looked out the window. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for everyone who had ever been oppressed, ignored, or dismissed. And with every step, she was getting closer to the change she had always dreamed of. The day after the announcement about Mrs. Walker's leave, Maya walked into school with a quiet confidence. The whispers had died down, but the weight of her actions still hung in the air. She had fought for something, and now the school was grappling with the aftermath. It felt like a war had ended, but the scars of battle were still visible. As she passed through the halls, Maya felt the eyes of her classmates on her again. This time, there was no anger or judgment in their stares. There was only a mix of awe and curiosity, people trying to understand what had happened, how one student could spark such a shift. Maya wasn't concerned with them. She had done what she needed to do, and now it was time to move forward. She entered the classroom, her heart steady, but as soon as she sat down, she noticed something different. The seat next to her was empty. Adam, the student who had thrown the paper airplane that started everything, wasn't there. The class started, and the teacher began with the day's lesson, but Maya's mind wandered. For the first time in her life, she felt like a catalyst, like her actions had rippled through the very foundation of this school. She was no longer just a student. She had become a symbol, a reminder that change could happen, even when it seemed impossible, but the victory didn't come without its costs. Maya couldn't ignore the subtle tension that lingered in every conversation. Teachers were more cautious around her now, students still watched her with wary eyes, unsure of what she would do next. She wasn't sure how long it would take for things to go back to normal, but she knew it wouldn't happen overnight. The final bell rang, signaling the end of another day. Maya gathered her things, and just as she was about to leave, Principal Harris appeared in the doorway. "Maya," he said, his voice softer than it had been before. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" Maya nodded and followed him into his office. The door clicked shut behind them, and Maya took a seat across from his desk. "I just wanted to tell you how proud I am of you," Principal Harris said, his tone sincere. "What you've done takes courage. And it's made a real difference." "I didn't do it for the praise," Maya said, her voice steady, though there was a hint of something softer beneath the surface. "I did it because it needed to be done." "I understand that," Principal Harris replied. "But I want you to know that you've opened my eyes to a lot of things. You've reminded me that sometimes, the system doesn't change unless someone stands up and demands it." Maya didn't respond immediately. She knew what he was saying, but she had been so focused on her fight that she hadn't considered the impact it would have on the people around her. She had been fighting for herself, for her dignity. But now she was beginning to see how it had affected everyone, from the students who had silently watched to the teachers who had been too afraid to speak out. "You've made a lot of enemies," Principal Harris continued. "But you've also made a lot of allies. People are talking, Maya. They're asking questions." "That's what I want," Maya said, her voice firm. "I don't want anyone to stay quiet anymore. I want them to question what's happening, to think about the choices they make." "And they will," Principal Harris said. "But you need to understand, this isn't over. You've ignited something here. And while that's important, it's just the beginning." Maya nodded slowly, processing his words. "I know. But I'm not done. I can't be." "There's more to be done," Principal Harris said, "and I'll support you through it. But you need to be careful. People will try to tear you down. You've made a lot of waves, and not everyone will like it." "I'm not afraid of them anymore," Maya said, her tone strong, but something in her voice softened. "I'm not afraid of what comes next. I've made my choice." Principal Harris stood up, walking around his desk to stand next to her. "I'll make sure your voice continues to be heard. But you've got to be ready for what's coming next." "I'm ready," Maya replied. "I've been ready for a long time." As she left the principal's office, the weight of the conversation settled on her shoulders. She had done what she set out to do, but it wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of a much larger battle, a battle that would take time, effort, and determination to win. The sun was setting as she walked out of the school, the golden light casting long shadows across the campus. It felt like a new day was dawning, not just for her, but for everyone who had been part of this fight. She reached the bus stop and saw Jasmine waiting for her. "Hey," Jasmine greeted, a small smile playing on her lips. "How was it?" "It's not over," Maya said, her voice steady. "But I've started something, and I won't stop until it's finished." Jasmine nodded. "I know you won't. And you've got everyone's back now. You've shown them what real courage looks like." Maya looked out at the horizon, her eyes filled with quiet determination. "I haven't done it for anyone else," she said softly. "I did it for me. For my dignity. For everyone who's ever been silenced." Jasmine smiled, putting her arm around Maya's shoulder. "Well, we're all with you. Every step of the way." Maya nodded, knowing that while the fight wasn't over, it would never be the same. She had sparked something that could change the world. And she wouldn't stop until the change she sought had been fully realized. Weeks passed. And the ripple effect of Maya's actions continued to spread across the school like wildfire. At first, it was subtle, whispers in the hallways, quiet nods of acknowledgement from the students who had never spoken to her before. But soon, it became more than just a passing moment. Mrs. Walker's departure was only the beginning. The board's investigation had sparked a wider conversation about systemic issues within the school, the ways in which power was abused, and the silencing of marginalized voices. Teachers started coming forward, sharing their own stories of feeling oppressed by the system. Students began speaking up, not just about Maya's battle but about their own struggles they had been too afraid to voice until now. Maya had become the symbol of resistance. A name that echoed through every classroom. A story that everyone was forced to confront, but despite all the attention, despite all the support, Maya remained as she always had been, quiet, focused, unshaken. She continued her education, but now it was different. Now, she was more than just a student. She was a force, a reminder to everyone that one person could make a difference. One afternoon, Maya sat in the cafeteria, her usual seat by the window, watching the bustle of students around her. A few months ago, she would have sat here, quietly, unnoticed. Now, students occasionally glanced at her, some with admiration, some with curiosity, others with uncertainty. But they no longer ignored her. Jasmine slid into the seat across from her, dropping her tray with a loud thud. "You know, you've officially become a legend," she said with a grin. Maya smiled faintly, her eyes still scanning the room. "I didn't do it for that." "I know," Jasmine replied. "But you've done something no one else has had the guts to do. You've shown everyone that they can fight back." "I didn't do it alone," Maya said, her gaze still distant. "This has always been bigger than me." Jasmine raised an eyebrow. "Well, you're the one they'll remember. You're the one who started it." Maya didn't respond. She wasn't concerned with what people would remember her for. What mattered to her now was the change that had started, the shift in the way things were seen and felt at this school. People were talking, questioning, and for once, it felt like the system was actually being held accountable. "Do you think things will ever go back to normal?" Jasmine asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. Maya paused, considering the question. "There's no normal to go back to," she said quietly. "What's normal when it means pretending everything is fine, pretending we don't have a problem?" Jasmine nodded slowly, understanding. "So, what happens now?" "Now?" Maya said, her voice steady but filled with resolve. "Now we make sure it doesn't stop here. We keep fighting, until things change for good." That evening, as Maya walked home, she passed the familiar streets of her neighborhood, but the world around her felt different. The sky was painted with the hues of sunset, and for the first time, the weight that had always pressed on her shoulders felt lighter. She wasn't alone anymore. The battle she had fought had been hard. And it hadn't come without its challenges. But as she walked with the wind brushing against her face, she realized that this was only the beginning. She had sparked something. She had started a conversation, a movement. And there was no going back, but there was still so much more to do. Maya looked up at the sky, the fading light casting long shadows on the pavement, and knew that no matter what came next, she was ready. The fight for justice, for equality, for change, it wasn't over. Not for her, and not for anyone who had ever been silenced. As the city around her bustled with life, Maya felt a calm settle inside her. She had changed the course of her own story. And in doing so, she had given others the strength to do the same. Maya's story is just one example of how standing up for what's right can ignite change. But the fight for justice doesn't end here. If you believe in the power of resistance, if you're ready to challenge the status quo, then this journey is just beginning. Join the conversation, make your voice heard, and stand up for what's right. Subscribe for more powerful stories of resilience, empowerment, and the fight for justice.